But a few key points I think is practice, get feedback, and have mentors. That's a way to sort of make sure what you deliver is good. And then a lot of what you get is going to be word of mouth or something you post on the net. I would say make sure you've got something recorded from something you've done that you like. Take 5 minutes from it and post it. Or send it out, as a Facebook post or something. But let people know this is what you do so they can see a snapshot of that. About the practice thing, to be an established speaker, you have to be good. And I used to stand in a church because it was empty. It was a place I could get some keys and get into in the morning. And I would give my talk to an empty room at 7 o'clock in the morning 3 or 4 times because I wanted to hear how it sounded. I knew what it looked like on paper and I knew what I believed about it. But when you start saying it, you go, oh, that doesn't sound that great, or that could be shorter, or whatever. So I would say practice even if it's to an empty room. And then get some mentors. Look at people who you admire, their speakers. Contact them and ask them for feedback and help. You'll be surprised at the number of people who will want to do that and give you that kind of support and encouragement. And they kind of kick your name around then. They know who you are. And they may endorse you for either something you've written or to just help promote a talk that you're giving.
So when I became a publicist, a big part of my job was encouraging authors to step up and tell their stories in front of different audiences. And often they would feel shy. They're very good at words when they have time to think them out and write them out and perfect them. And when you speak in public, there's a little bit of the unknown of how it's going to be received. And I would just encourage them and say, you wrote this story because you wanted to share it with the widest possible audience. And this is the way you do it, is by getting up there and sharing it. And your enthusiasm and your expertise is going to touch and change people. So it was very easy for me to advise other people to do that. And then when I became an author, all of a sudden, I felt how terrifying it was to stand up there and say the things that mattered the most to you and not know how that was going to be received. I've been lucky to have opportunities in a lot of different settings, so I would encourage anyone who has a fear of public speaking to say yes to a lot of different opportunities, whether it's a small group. I've met with book clubs in their homes. I've had smaller gatherings at bookstores. I offer to give workshops to departments and organizations. And then stepping up to a different mic on a different stage in front of a larger audience, it all just becomes a more natural progression. So at this point, I have learned that the nerves that I feel every time are completely natural. And the fact that my mouth goes dry and my heart starts to flutter a little bit does not mean that I'm about to die. If I just take a deep breath and remind myself of why I'm here, the message will become clear. And the impact that you have on people when you see their eyes light up and they nod and they understand where you're coming from, it's so powerful. There's something in this day and age about how everyone interacts through screens and through devices where we feel disconnected. And in a live setting where you can relate to someone else as a human being who has emotions that they never knew that they shared with anyone, and there you are sharing your story, it is such an exhilarating feeling. So remembering why you're there and why the audience is there, and holding yourself open to connect with each other and to make changes in yourselves and therefore in the world. When people walk out, they leave different than they were when they walked in. That's so powerful. So that's worth stepping up to the mic and feeling a little nervous. It's worth all of the work and the effort.
If you know your audience and feel comfortable in targeting your speech to that audience, I think that builds a lot of confidence. For me, again, my story is one of overcoming cancer and a heart transplant and now doing Ironman. And so what I try to do is relate those things to the people I'm speaking to. I mean, not everybody is going to have a bone marrow transplant, thankfully. Not everybody's going to have a heart transplant, but everybody has challenges in their life. And so if you can craft that to meet to fit the audience that you're talking with, if it's a business audience, the challenge that they may have in that particular business environment, or if it's, a health conference and people who are dealing with those kind of things, or just general inspiration. Everybody deals with something in their lives, so that if you can craft your story to relate specifically to those people, you could be off your game a little bit that day, but you know that your audience is going to go home and have taken something personal from your story. And I feel like that makes you go in really feeling good about your topic and feeling good about the speech and how things are going to go. When you're giving a speech, you need to recognize that you're telling a story and you're asking an audience to go with you on a journey for 45 minutes to an hour. And you can't just be up there lecturing, whatever it is that your topic is. Even, if it's, obviously mine is a very personal story, but if you're an expert in economics, you can't just get up there and give a lecture. I think we can all relate back to when we were in college, and which professors do you remember? The ones who could get up there and lecture and craft a story and really make it, come home to the audience. And so I think that to be an effective speaker, you need to be able to do that.
I think great public speakers, number one, connect with the audience at all times. They're able to make that connection. And they do so in part because they have at top of mind a map of where they want to go. I think when you have a map of what are the key ideas you really want to communicate to your audience, it frees up a lot of the anxiety that does come with public speaking, because you have that map to guide you. And also, again, you want to have that emotional conviction about whatever it is that you're talking about, so that you can make that connection. You're not just feeding the mind, you're also connecting with souls when you're doing a public talk. Many at a time, but you need to make connection on many levels. And I think that emotionality has to be attended to as well.
Okay, I'm an opera singer as well. I trained musically, so breathing is essential when you speak. This is the flow and the life force behind your speech. So before you get on stage, contact your breath. Feel your diaphragm moving, through your body. Relax as much as you can so that your diaphragm can really pump air. And that's your engine, that's your turbo. And then the second thing is ground yourself in the floor, like feel the floor below your feet. And again, you can have the brightest mind, if you don't have that life force, and that's again what the intuitive compass shows. You need to really, really rely on your guts, in order to get the message across and be the lion and the leader that you want to be on stage.
I think, of course, taking a public speaking class is a good idea, or joining Toastmasters. The last public speaking class I ever took was in college, and I didn't do a lot of public speaking after that, but I got into public speaking because I would get up in front of a room of engineers and teach them how to write a certain segment of the proposal. So I was like a part of the training faculty. But I think people should just go for it. As many times as I've spoken in front of groups, even today, speaking today, I get panicked. I get very nervous. But as soon as I sit down, then I'm fine. And I also believe it's a good idea to have notes available. Sometimes that's not possible, but have notes on the podium or have notes in your hand. And I know when I do that, I never even have to refer to them. They're just sort of like a crutch.